Hi there, I'm Harry and welcome to my world of English phrases and words and everything to do and everything connected with English. I'm frequently asked by students and by people who join me on my channel is, how do I speak better English? How can I improve my English? And is there an easy way? Well, you won't be surprised if I tell you that there is no easy way. The only way that you're going to be able to improve your English is to work hard and to practice. But there are certain tips that I can give you, and I'm going to give you a list of 10 tips that if you follow these tips, I'm sure you're going to be able to improve your English. You're going to be able to listen better and you're going to be able to speak better, and then culmination of all that is you're going to be able to communicate better with the people that you want to communicate with. There's a little story about the person wandering around London, and he's trying to find the Albert Hall, which is a beautiful music event in London, and he stops this stranger and he says to the stranger, "How do I get to the Albert Hall?" And the guy looks at him and he says, "Practice." And it's the same with your English. You have to continue and practice and practice. So these are the tips that I'm going to give you. I constantly tell my students, you have to practice, and when I get a new student I tell them the exact same, and the reason why I keep telling them that is because it works. Practice, repeat, practice and repeat, and it's the only thing that will get you back up to that level. Now, I'm a little bit old-fashioned. My wife calls me a bit of a dinosaur, so I'm going to refer to some notes when I'm talking to you today, so forgive me if I'm looking at some notes, okay? So, as I said, I'm going to give you 10 particular tips as to how you can improve your English. And as I said, if you follow these tips and you go through them step by step, it's going to help you to improve your English. So the first step is to know exactly what your level is. Okay, so there's no point starting to learn English if you don't know what level you're at, because you'll either get books or teachers that are too easy, or you'll get something that is too difficult. And if it's too easy, you'll get bored, and if it's too difficult, you'll lose heart and you won't have that motivation. So it's really important to get yourself assessed and find out exactly what level you're at. Is it pre-intermediate? Is it intermediate or upper intermediate? And once you establish your level, then you'll be able to set a plan for yourself to improve your English. Okay, so that's the first point. Assess yourself, or get somebody to assess you, so that this will keep you motivated. Okay, so the second point, and this is a really important point, is about vocabulary. Okay, everybody wants to improve their vocabulary. Everybody is told that if you have a wide and broad vocabulary, it's a good sign that you're able to speak good English. Well, yes, that's important, but what do you do with it? What do you do with these words? I see and I hear teachers teaching English telling students, learn 10 words a day, 8 words a day, memorize the words. That's rubbish. It just doesn't work. As soon as you've memorized them and as soon as you've repeated them to the teacher, within a day you've forgotten the words. The only way that you can use vocabulary is if you know the words, know how to use them, and you can practice using them in sentences and phrases. So don't just swallow a dictionary. Don't just learn by heart certain words. What do the words mean? Okay, and when you know what the words mean and you're able to put them into a sentence that have much more sense, much more meaning to you, and you're much more likely to remember them. Okay, so when you get your words, or you get them, practice putting them into sentences with your teacher. You know, you have a word, what does it mean? Then put it into a sentence, understand, and you get an idea exactly what that word means and how you're going to use it. Try putting it into phrases. After all, English is not just words. English is words that make up sentences, words that make up phrases, and when you put them together, we can communicate with one another and it makes much more sense. You don't see people in the street just talking moon, dog, tree, whatever. No, they're not just saying words. They're putting the words in phrases, in sentences, and in that way they're communicating. So that's the second point. Okay, so let's look then at the third point. And the third point is to do with reading. And this is really, really important for me and how I get my students to improve their English. So we pick an article, or I pick an article for them, again based on their level, something that's not so difficult for the beginners, and something that's challenging for those at intermediate level, and something at the right level for those at higher level. So once we've picked the article, I get them to read it, repeat it, read it again. Then I correct them. Okay, so when they've read it, I pick out words that they've made a mistake on, or they've stumbled over, or they've got the wrong intonation, so I get them to repeat it. And this reading and repeating, it's not boring, it's really, really important. There's no point going on to other articles or other sentences or other aspects if they can't get the basics correct. So read and repeat, read and repeat. I had a student this morning and we were reading a short article, and a few mistakes were made, so we repeated it. A few more mistakes were made, we repeated it again, and on the third attempt it was perfect. The pronunciation was good. And that's a really important part of the reading exercise. It's not just about recognizing words, but it's also about the pronunciation. Okay, so get the correct pronunciation. Where does the stress come in? Is it at the end? Is it in the middle? Which syllable are we going to stress? Okay, in lots of words you've got to get that ending correct. Walked, talked. So when you're reading it, you can hear this as a teacher, you can identify the problems, and you get your student to improve it. So it's really, really important to focus on those aspects. For example, when we're talking about a phrase like, say, "Oh, it's raining today." That sounds very boring and dull. So when you see that in an article, you have to get the student to understand intonation. Oh, it's raining today. Yeah, so it sounds much better. It sounds like it should sound. It sounds like somebody would say it in a conversation. Oh, it's raining today. Oh, it's raining again. Yeah, whatever it might be, you have to get the correct intonation. So reading is not only about, as I said, recognizing the words, it's also about the pronunciation, as I said, but also the intonation. So you have to get the correct intonation in your voice. It takes a while, but if you want to speak better English, you want to communicate, you want people to understand you, then reading, pronunciation and intonation are really, really important. And only when you are feeling comfortable should you move on. Here you should use technology. So you've got the ability with your mobile phones or your laptops to record. So when you're talking to your teacher, or you're talking to somebody with a better level of English than you have, ask them, do they mind if you record the conversation? So later on, in the privacy of your own home or your own room, when you have time, you can replay it, listen, and you can understand the pronunciation of the teacher. You can listen to yourself and you can see where you've made mistakes, compare that to the recording of the teacher, and know how you can improve it yourself. So don't be afraid to use technology. Don't be afraid to record these conversations, because you have them stored on your phone or on your laptop, and you can play them over and over again to yourself. And it's all part of the learning process. As I said at the very beginning, it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of training and time you have to put to it. There's no easy solution to this, but repetition is really, really important. So read and repeat, read and repeat. Okay, so fourth point, and this is really important, speaking. Okay, so English is all about communication. It's important to be able to read, as we said. It's important to have vocabulary, obviously very important to understand the grammar, but we are in a language of communication, so we want to speak, we want to talk to people. When you go on holidays, you want to be able to talk to somebody in the train station, the airport, the hotel, wherever it might be. So you want to have the comfort and confidence about speaking. So the more frequently you speak with other people, the better your English will become. Okay, I have students who are doing exams, or they have to get to a certain level of English at maybe B1, B2 or C1 level, so that they can be interviewed for a promotion. And to do that, they have to be able to speak English fluently. So what we do is we try and speak English together for 3 or 4 times each week. Okay, normally my lessons last for 45 minutes, and many students have maximum 2, but most of the time 1 lesson a week. So it's not really sufficient to get that fluency if they're under pressure for some interview. So what we do is we change it around for a few months, and we shorten the lessons, but we have them for maybe 20 minutes every day for 4 or 5 days in the week to get that fluency. So when they're talking to me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then they get more confidence because they're used to speaking to me more frequently. Okay, so it's all again about practice. It doesn't matter what you talk about. You can talk about the weather, you can talk about the football match you watched the night before, the film you saw, the book you're reading, what your boyfriend or girlfriend did, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter. The important thing is communication, frequency, and use it as often as you can. Okay, so when we get this fluency, we forget about little mistakes. We hear from our teacher or the person we're talking to how they say it, and we copy. And copying people is the best way. Yeah, it's the only way that you're going to learn, and that you're going to learn quickly. So listen to other people, see how they pronounce it, and copy them. Important thing here though is to make sure the person that you're talking to has English at your level minimum, or better still above yours. So if it's not a teacher that you can find a friend or colleague or relative, somebody that has language level above yours, so that when they are talking to you, you're going to be able to learn from them. Okay, so just before I go on to the next point, when you're speaking, try and get it on a regular basis. Try and find a buddy, a friend, or a teacher that can speak to you. Use it as frequently as possible. Yes, of course, grammar is important, but remember, we're talking about communication, English as a language of communication. So the more often you can use it, the better it's going to be for you. Okay, so that was point number 4. Let's move on to my tip number 5, and this is in relation to listening. Okay, so listening, and again, it's an important aspect of our English language. We have to listen to different extracts. We have to understand different voices. We have to understand intonation in people's voices. We have to, of course, understand a variety of different accents, because not everybody speaking English speaks in the same way. If you go to England on a holiday or a business trip, you'll meet as many people in a day with totally different accents, whether they come from the north, the south, the east, or the west of that country. If you go to America, you'll meet lots of people with different American accents also speaking English. So any country that is an English-speaking country, there are going to be people with different accents, and the only way to understand that is to listen, to be able to identify it, so that when you talk to those people, you'll be able to improve your English and you'll be able to have a proper communication. So how will listening improve your fluency? Well, of course, there are lots of productions and quality podcasts and everything else that you can access. So again, here we're talking about using technology. There shouldn't be any excuse not to be able to get something that you can download on your computer, that you can listen to on your radio or whatever it might be. Okay, so you can get it on your mobile phone while you're cycling, while you're driving, while you're walking. There's no excuse. So use the technology and be able to get good quality material. Okay. If you want to learn British English, there's no point listening or watching Friends, for example, which I hear a lot of people do, American movies, because all you're going to get are American accents, and you're going to get a confusion between words. Okay, very simply, words like elevator in America, it's a lift in British English. Okay, the front of the car in American English is the hood. In British English, it's the bonnet. The city centre in English is downtown in American English. So you can get a confusion of terminology. So you just have to be really careful. So if you want to speak British English, well, obviously go to British sites that will give you that access to that listening content. Okay, the BBC have wonderful podcasts that you can download. They're very professional. They talk on different topics. They're specifically geared for you, the learner. So I would certainly recommend that you consider using those. And again, depending on the time that you have, how much of these you can listen to in a week, the more you can, the better and the quicker that you're going to use your and understand your English. Okay. I often hear from students who've watched American movies the word gonna. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. It's not English, that's American slang, and it's not something you'll hear a lot in British English. So make sure that whatever you're listening to is appropriate to the English that you want to learn. Of course, if you want to speak like an American, nothing wrong with it. Focus on American movies and American production. If you want to speak proper British English, then focus on proper British material. And again, as I've said before, I'm a little bit of a dinosaur, so forgive me for that, but another important part of listening for me is for people to listen to music, okay? And it's not just for the enjoyment aspect of it. A lot of people learn more English by listening to music than they do anything else. I have two twins, actually. They're only 10 years of age, and their English is not so good, but they understand all the English in English songs, which is quite amazing. So they're able to sing songs at the lessons, but when you show them words, they don't understand them. So people pick up either the tone or the lyrics from listening to music. I wouldn't recommend the modern music because a lot of it to me is rubbish. But if you look at the old music of the 60s and the 70s, particularly groups like the Beatles, lots of interesting stories in their music. And when you look at the lyrics, or download the lyrics, listen to the music, read the words, and you'll understand it, and it'll help you to understand your English a little bit better. Okay, so plenty of podcasts, plenty of material, all available on the internet, everything available for you to download. Focus on your listening skills, and in that way you're going to improve your English a little more quickly. Okay, so that was point number 5, I think. So we're moving on to tip number 6. And here I'm giving you a don't. So all the other tips were positive tips. This one is a negative. Don't please use Google Translate. I really, really hate it. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to give you good English. It's going to give you an automatic translation, the first word that they get. And I've seen people writing to me knowing that they've used Google Translate, and the English is absolute rubbish. So if you're in doubt, well, look up a proper dictionary. Get yourself a really good Oxford English dictionary, and that will give you not only the words, it'll give you the different tenses, it'll give you the past participle, it'll give you phrases, it will give you lots of different ways in which you can use that word, and it's much better way. When you're listening and reading, you're not going to be able to understand 100% of everything that you read or listen to. It's just impossible. If you can understand 60, 70, 80%, well, that is really good, and work on that to build it up. And try and guess the meaning of words you don't know by the intonation, by the context of the article that you're reading or the song that you're listening to. And I guarantee when you practice this, you will, over a period of time, improve your English, because you're forcing yourself to understand it. You're not just looking up Google Translate, which again, even if they give you the correct word, you'll forget it within minutes or hours of having looked it up. But if you force yourself to remember it and try and understand it, you have a much better chance of remembering that word. And when you come across it again in the future, you go, oh yeah, I remember looking at that word, and you'll know then what it means. So by all means use technology, but in this case I'm trying to get you not to use this particular part of technology. So try and avoid, if you can, Google Translate. Okay, so that's tip number 6. So let's move on to number 7. I always try and get my students to keep their English simple. And some people get a little bit frustrated with me. I know they like to use nice words, they like to use big words, and they think that using these big words is a sign of perfect English. Well, of course it can be if you can use the words perfectly. If you know how and when to use them, of course, these big and long words, can be really, really good. And in business English, people like to use them all the time. If you ever pick up a legal document from a bank or an insurance company, you'll find plenty of these long-winded words. But they don't always need to be used in spoken English, in how you want to communicate and how you want to communicate with people better. So try and keep your English simple, particularly at the beginning when you're learning. So I have this little phrase, keep it simple, stupid. KISS. So remember that, KISS. K-I-S-S. Keep it simple, stupid. It's not to downgrade the level of your English. It's not to get you to talk like a baby. I am Harry. No, it's to get you to use simple English that people can understand, and when you understand it and they understand you, then over a period of time you can build on that, improve your level of English, then incorporate more complex sentences where you introduce more clauses, and that'll show an improvement in your English very, very quickly. So particularly if you're at the pre-intermediate level or even at the intermediate level, try and simplify your English a little bit, and when you get up to that advanced level, well then of course you can introduce longer, more complex sentences, longer and more complex phrases, and of course using the words. One of my students recently asked me to review an essay that he had to write for an American university. He was trying to apply to the university for entry, and part of this was to write a letter of intent, showing a letter of wishes why he wanted to go to this particular university. And a lot of his thoughts were really good, but unfortunately he had used one or two words incorrectly. One of the sentences read, "The experience is very vulnerable to me." And what he really meant to say was, the experience is very valuable to me. But unfortunately he had used the word vulnerable in the wrong place. So it meant nothing and looked a little bit stupid. And I guess, with a couple of other mistakes that he'd made, this would go against him in any assessment that that university would place on him. So, be very, very careful with the language you use. You can use much more simple language and you can get your point across very accurately without having to use words that you're a little bit unsure about, or you use them totally out of context. So when we're talking about English, as I said, make sure you focus on simple English and then build up to have your English in a lot more complex way. And again, it'll get you to the point where you want to be a lot more quickly. Okay, so that's point number 7, and now tip number 8 is find a good teacher. Okay, you might be wondering why I've left this to near the end, but I haven't put these really in any order of preference, but finding a good teacher is really important for you to improve your English. And there are lots and lots of good teachers out there. The world is full of people who want to teach English. Not all of them experts, not all of them trained, and not all of them with the appropriate qualifications. But leaving those aside, there are a lot of really good teachers out there. And if you want to learn English, and you want to learn good English, and you want to speak English more fluently, please get yourself a good native teacher, a good native English teacher, okay? Because this is the only way you're going to be able to improve it. Of course, sometimes it's not so easy for you because you might not understand English so well at the beginning, and you might be looking for a teacher who is at the very least bilingual, okay? And I can understand that. So at the beginning you might get a teacher that is teaching you English partly through your own native language, whether that's French or Spanish or Russian, but as you progress and as you want to improve, the only way you're going to be able to improve your English and the quality of your spoken English is to get a good native English teacher. Okay, so I have to really emphasize that a lot. When you're picking your English teacher, of course you have to get somebody that suits you, okay? Not everybody is suitable to everybody else, so you may have to shop around a little bit to find out teachers. Again, here's where technology is really, really critical, because all of my lessons, 100% of my lessons are now given online. I don't do many or if any lessons on a face-to-face basis, which I did 11, 12 years ago when I started in this business. So Online is where you can find them. There are lots of sites, so pick and choose, go around and see somebody that suits your particular personality, somebody who has a personality, because that's really important. You're going to build up a relationship with that person over a period of time. Then you want to have somebody that you can perhaps have a little laugh with, somebody that you can share some secrets with, or something important, somebody who understands how important learning English is going to be to you. So don't always go for the cheapest option. We often make those mistakes. Don't go for the cheapest option, but go for something that's going to help you, something that's going to put you on the right road to get yourself in the right position to improve your English. Okay, so that's point number 8. So we're getting close to the end. So now the tip number 9, okay? As we've used it, and I've mentioned during the video, make use of technology. There's no excuse now. Even me, the dinosaur that I am, I use lots and lots of technology. I know my laptop inside out. I know Skype and a Zoom and all other options that are there. So you should be able to do the same. If you're in that age bracket, 20 to 40, then technology shouldn't be a problem for you. There's lots and lots of technology there that's going to help you. As I mentioned, when you're talking to people, when you're listening, when you're reading, use record on your mobile phone or some other gadget. Record, repeat, listen to it again, replay it. So all the time you're constantly getting English as part of your life. So it should become the same as your left arm or your right arm. Yeah. So you've got the technology beside you. You'll be able to download, replay, and listen to endless podcasts, endless recordings, and all these opportunities that are going to immerse you into the English language and enable you to improve. After all, what you want to do, in the question that we posed at the beginning, how can I improve my English? Well, this is one of the ways. You can use technology to assist you. It's not going to replace the teacher, okay? It's not going to replace reading the books, but it's going to help you. It's going to assist you in understanding English, and every little opportunity that you have, just looking on it as an advantage, as a tool that's going to get you to where you want to be with your English language, okay? And then the last point I want to make, and the last tip I want to give you, is practice your written English. Okay, so we've focused very much on English as communication, and often when we're talking about communication, it is about how we talk, how we relate with other people. But written English is a very important part of communication as well. Particularly if you're in the business world, you have to write emails, you have to write business reports, you have to write letters, whatever you have to use, you're going to use written English a lot more than in other parts of English, whether it's with friends or other people like that. So written English is really important. And again here, the only way to improve your written English is to practice, okay? With my students, I get them to write letters, I get them to write postcards, I get them to write informal letters, formal letters, letters of complaints, essays on any topic that is really important and relevant, okay? And the only reason I'm doing this is practice, practice, practice. So with my students, I get them to write these essays and letters. All they have to do is put it into a Word document, they send it to me, and I check it, and I can speed read, so I know instinctively where the mistakes are going to be. I can highlight those mistakes, I can track them, and then I send them back to the student, and we can discuss them at a next lesson. So when you want to practice your written English, find somebody who can correct them, okay? There's no point writing them if nobody is going to point out where you're making the mistake. So find somebody, again, your teacher or somebody else, who will run their eye over your work, correct what is wrong, and tell you why you've made the mistake. Why have you used the wrong preposition? Why should you have used the present perfect and not the past simple? Why should you have used some other form of clause or relative clause or pronoun? So all the reasons and all the mistakes we make, there's no point just repeat the same mistakes time and time again. You need somebody to correct them for you. Again, I'm using as an example, I have lots of my students, and we practice our written English all the time. One of my students 7-8 months ago, she could hardly write any English, really. She hadn't had any experience. So we set up a situation where every week I gave her a couple of tests, essays or letters. She sent them to me, I corrected them. She sent them back, I corrected them again. And if you saw the quality of the material that she writes now, it's so good, so much improved compared to 6 or 8 months ago. And each week I could see steady improvement. And now she's at the situation where I rarely see mistakes, occasionally a little problem with the article or a preposition, which are really difficult in written English, but really far fewer mistakes than she had at the beginning, and a really big improvement in the quality, not only in the quality of the writing, but also the use of English, the use of vocabulary, improvement, getting different words. So now we are spending our time focusing on alternative words rather than just the same words all the time. So in this way, we're improving the quality of her written English as well. So don't forget about your written English. You have to practice it. It's a really important part of communication. And again, like everything else I've said, repeat. And the more you do, the better you'll become. Okay, so I've given you hopefully 10 really good tips as to how you can improve your English, okay, from listening to speaking to reading and writing and everything else in between, particularly the use of technology. So if you have any questions, you can always follow me up and join me on www.englishlessonviaskype.com and subscribe to my channel. We're going to have some really important announcements soon, and in my channel you'll find a link to a lot of our grammar courses for English, which are really good value that you can buy, and hopefully we'll catch up with you soon.